Let's jump right in. Picture a humble 1-cent piece. No, hold on. A seemingly ordinary 10-cent coin slipping through your fingers, gleaming in the light, yet hiding a secret that could turn a quick pocket change into a life-changing windfall. Today's first spotlight coin began its journey in 1983, just as the U.S. Mint made a daring move that would echo through collector circles for decades. As we peel back the layers of metal, mint marks and microscopic anomalies emerge, each telling a story of production challenges, shifting policies, and pure chance. By the end of this segment, you'll know exactly what to look for, why experts leap at the chance to own one, and how much you might see if you ever decide to part with yours. Back in the early 80s, rising copper costs forced the mint to adjust the dime's composition. Prior to 1965, dimes had carried a 90% silver weight, but by 1983, those days were long gone. The mint introduced a copper-clad steel core plated with copper and nickel, aiming to cut costs without sacrificing appearance. Yet as production ramped up, quality control hit snags. Coins intended to be plated ended up with bare steel cores showing through or missing the nickel layer entirely. These error pieces, once dismissed as scrap, now shine bright in collector showcases. They capture a precise moment when economic pressures collided with manufacturing limits, giving birth to a rarity that casual spenders might never notice. Identifying that rare 1983 dime starts with a careful inspection. First, check the edge. A genuine clad dime should have a smooth, reeded edge with even ridges and a consistent metallic sheen. On a steel core error, you'll spot faint grayish lines between the ridges or even patches where the copper plating never adhered. Next, turn it over and examine the Roosevelt portrait. Under a loupe, you may detect a slight doubling on Franklin D. Roosevelt's cheek or hair strands, an unintended result of dye, where that can add even more value. Finally, inspect the mint mark location just below the torch on the reverse side. On Denver issues, marked D, that tiny D can vary in depth. Shallow strikes sometimes make the mint mark appear ghostly or incomplete. What makes the 1983 dime error truly rare isn't just one type of flubbed plating. It's the range of mistakes that slipped through. Some coins emerged with a full steel core, completely devoid of copper, showing a dull gray rather than the warm copper hue. Others display a half-clad effect, where one side plated correctly and the other sat bare. A tiny fraction sport off-center strikes, resulting in an uneven border that offends perfectionists but attracts speculators. When you combine plating errors with die cracks, those fine spiderweb lines radiating from the rim, you get an unpredictable variety that keeps auction paddles flying. Recent auction records speak volumes. In late 2024, a well-preserved 1983 steel core Denver error sold for over $7,500 at heritage auctions, far exceeding estimates and surprising even seasoned bidders. Just 2 months prior, another example with a faint die crack and slightly off-center strike fetched $5,200, nearly quadruple high-grade clad dime prices. On eBay, listings for circulated error pieces often start around $200, but pristine, museum-quality specimens climb rapidly past the four-figure mark during flash sales and live bidding. Those chasing monster grades, MS66 and above, should prepare for spirited competition and occasionally jump prices into the tens of thousands. Beyond numbers, this dime carries a few tales that fuel its allure. One collector claims an early coin roll purchase netted 3 steel core dimes in a single $5 bag, an occurrence so unlikely it feels like winning the lottery twice. Another story tells of a small-town bank teller who tucked away a handful after noticing their odd color. Those coins remained forgotten in a desk drawer until rediscovered at an estate sale decades later. Each story underscores the thrill of discovery and the notion that a casual shopper's pocket change could hold a hidden gem. Condition matters more here than with standard clad issues. In about uncirculated grades, 50 to 58 Australian dollars, steel core errors commonly trade in the $300 to $600 range, reflecting surface where but clear error features. Move up to mint state, MS60, MS63. Prices typically sit between $1,500 and $3,000, depending on plating purity and strike sharpness. Once you reach MS64 and above, Where luster shines and edges remain crisp, values spike dramatically, often jumping from $4,000 to $8,000 in a heartbeat. Even minor contact marks or bag marks can shave thousands off those numbers. As with all high-end pieces, provenance and certification by PCGS or NGC further bolster confidence and can push records higher. For collectors keen on verification, a few simple tests can make all the difference. Hold the dime under a bright LED light at various angles to spot plating inconsistencies. A magnet test helps confirm the steel core. True errors will cling, while properly clad coins will not. Photographing the coin against a white card, then zooming in on die cracks and mint marks, aids in comparing details with known reference images online. Finally, when in doubt, sending the piece for professional grading and error attribution transforms a casual guess into a certified marvel. As word spreads among collectors, forums and social media groups buzz with fresh finds and fresh frustrations. No one wants to miss the next breakthrough error discovery. Dealers who once dismissed 1983 dimes now stock them in display cases, complete with magnifiers and carefully lit glass. Even non-error-clad versions have seen a modest value uptick, driven by the heightened interest that error coins always ignite. Whether you're hunting through rolls at your local credit union or trading with fellow enthusiasts, the 1983 dime error remains a shining example of how everyday objects can suddenly transcend their humble origins. With that treasure trove of history, value insights, and collector tips, you're armed to spot a potential 1983 dime error whenever one crosses your path. Keep those eyes sharp and your magnifiers ready, because up next we'll unveil another dime that's quietly rewriting the rules of rarity. Now, let's shift our focus to the 1981 Roosevelt dime, a coin that quietly slipped off mint conveyor belts, yet now sits center stage among top collectors' must-haves. Fresh from the mint at a time when production standards and planchet sourcing faced unexpected hiccups, the 1981 dime harbors a slew of surprises beneath its familiar silver-colored facade. By the end of this segment, you'll see why even seasoned numismatists pause when they spot one, how to pinpoint its subtle quirks, and what figures you might see if you were to consign yours at auction. The story begins in a transitional era for U.S. coinage. Though no longer composed of silver, dimes still carried a copper-clad core layered in a tough nickel shell. Early in 1981, the Philadelphia and Denver mints churned out millions, but supply shortfalls of planchets forced the mint to subcontract an outside vendor. That vendor's specifications didn't perfectly match the mint's own, leading to slight thickness variations and occasional impurities in the nickel alloy. To the naked eye, these discrepancies vanish beneath a quick glance. Yet under scrutiny, they reveal themselves in thin spots, subtle color shifts, or even minute rough patches, giving rise to a family of error types that collectors now chase relentlessly. Spotting a rare 1981 dime starts with simple tools: a magnifying glass, a solid light source, and a magnet for good measure. First, examine the surface for spotty strike areas, regions where the nickel plating appears mottled, as if tiny islands of copper peek through. These are often most pronounced around Roosevelt's chin and hairline, where dies experience the greatest pressure. Next, run a magnet along the edge. Any magnetic attraction confirms stray steel planchets crept into production. Such planchets shouldn't exist in a clad dime and immediately elevate interest. Finally, scrutinize the fields around the date and mint mark. Look for double digits or faint die cracks that often accompany planchet irregularities, further boosting rarity. What truly elevates the 1981 dime are the confluence of error types. Some coins exhibit the plating skip phenomenon, where entire sections of the coin lack nickel plating, creating a two-tone appearance that practically seems painted on. Others show broad strike characteristics, with the rim splayed outward and reeds partially missing, a dramatic effect that transforms a dime into a miniature frisbee. Add to that the elusive lamination peel, where the copper core begins to flake through in delicate, petal-like patterns, and you have a catalog of mistakes that feels more like an art show than a mint run. Let's talk numbers, because this coin's auction trajectory has been nothing short of breathtaking. In May 2025, an MS-65 1981 Philadelphia broadstrike with minor die cracking sold for $12,300, exceeding its estimate by nearly 50%. Just 2 weeks later, a PCGS-certified MS-64 plating skip, Denver example, fetched $9,800 in a competitive heritage sale. On the secondary market, raw error specimens in about uncirculated conditions trade anywhere from $400 to $1,200, depending on the error's visual impact and photographic documentation. Meanwhile, higher mint state grades slip easily into the $3,000 to $7,000 range, especially when backed by third-party grading and detailed attribution as plating error, partial, or broad strike. Beyond cold hard cash, the 1981 dime enjoys a cachet fueled by a handful of quirky anecdotes. One collector swears they found an unplated core planchet, essentially a bare copper blank with Roosevelt's image faintly stamped, while sorting through a small-town bank order. Another story centers on a coin dealer who discovered a two-faced error, one side plated correctly, the other entirely bare, creating an almost ghostly visage of Roosevelt. These tales circulate in numismatic forums like campfire legends, each new find reigniting the hope that a hidden treasure awaits any roll of dimes. For those debating whether to submit a 1981 dime for grading, consider the marked difference between uncertified and certified values. An MS-63 raw broad strike might linger at $2,500 in private sales, but once slabbed and graded by NGC or PCGS with the notation broad strike 110% plus, it often commands $4,000 or more. Photographs accompanying submissions are critical, sharp, well-lit shots of the error area ensure graders spot the error and attribute it correctly. Without that, you risk receiving a generic MS-63 grade that tells little about the coin's unique qualities. Condition dramatically sways value here, as with any high-end collectible, yet the 1981 dime's error types often override minor surface marks. In the AU state, plating variations remain bold and clear, making these pieces impressive showstoppers for mid-tier budgets of $500 to $1,000. Jumping up to MS-60 through MS-63, where mint luster melds with scorching error contrast, you're looking at mid-four-figure ranges, a sweet spot for those balancing investment and aesthetic appeal. Only the sharpest, virtually flawless errors earn the MS-65 and up designation, and those routinely shatter prior records by vaulting into the $10,000 to $15,000 bracket. Digging deeper, some hobbyists track the die variety, angle, cataloging tiny differences in die polish lines or die marker gouges that correspond with specific error clusters. Combining plating errors with distinctive die varieties amplifies desirability, as it confirms the coin originated from a singular, traceable die pairing. Reference guides color-coded by die variety help pinpoint which batch your piece belongs to and what relative scarcity to expect. That blend of metallurgy, die study, and detective work transforms a simple dime hunt into a multi-layered puzzle. When hunting rolls at your bank or coin exchange, remember that the bulk of 1981 dimes remain perfectly clad and bear none of these fascinating blemishes. But every so often, a lone oddball slips by. Make it a habit to set aside any dime that looks slightly off in hue under bright light or feels just a fraction thicker or thinner in hand. Even at today's bullion and base metal prices, the cost of retaining a potential error specimen is trivial compared to the windfall it might represent. Auction houses now routinely feature specialized modern error sessions, and the 1981 dime often headlines them. Whether live, online, or hybrid, bidding crowds magnify the drama. Watching a plating skip example leap from a $3,000 floor bid to $7,500 in mere seconds. For consignors, the key to success lies in high-resolution images, detailed provenance stories, and sharp grading credentials. Collectors, on the other hand, scour lot catalogs for the smallest hints of imperfection. One vague photo of an off-center planchet can spark a buying frenzy. Collectors' chat rooms and Discord channels buzz daily with fresh leads. A member might post, "Check your change. I snagged an MS-62 plated skip from a restaurant tip yesterday." Another shares macro photographs comparing layering patterns on Philly versus Denver issues. Social media's role can't be overstated. A single viral post showcasing a rare lamination peel can ignite global interest, driving newcomers into the hobby and sending seasoned pros scrambling for bench reference sheets. With the 1981 dime's tale now fully told, from its planchet mishaps to headline-grabbing auction sales, you've seen how a coin minted for mere 10 cents can transcend its face value by thousands of dollars. In our conclusion, we'll tie together the lessons from both the 1983 and 1981 dimes and explore how these modern classics underscore the enduring magic of chance in coin collecting.